Then we see something like Bitcoin. And I got into trouble recently in that I was in Iran. And I told the Iranian government that if they wanted to get around the regulatory issues of being thrown out the SWIFT network, put all their money into Bitcoins. Maybe that's the reason why Bitcoin went through this sudden bubble of $20 to $266 per coin in February, March. Or maybe it's because the Cyprus governments and the Bank of Cyprus issues led to the Cypriots and the Spanish and many others who no longer have faith in banks, taking all their money out of the banking system and putting it into the Bitcoin system. So to explain a bit more about the future of payments being unfamiliar, Jon Matonis, who's from the Bitcoin Foundation, will give us a view that opposes Thierry's view. Jon.
All right. I'm going to ramp it up a little bit, and as Chris said, my name's Jon Matonis. I'm from the Bitcoin Foundation, and I want to make the point that in the future, we're not going to have central banks, but we're going to have decentral banks. And allow me to elaborate a little bit on that type of a future. Hans is putting up in the background what decentralization looks like. Before we take a look at that, though, I just wanted to give you a brief background because some people have different levels of understanding for Bitcoin in the audience. Why Bitcoin now? Why was it released in 2009? Why not 10 years ago? Why not in 1995 when David Chaum had DigiCash from Amsterdam, which was an excellent digital cash protocol? Why didn't that take off? Well, the big difference now compared to back then is we have distributed computing technology. The systems that David Chaum was working on were very centralized. You had to send the coin back to the mint to be reissued and verified to prevent a double spend. And for various reasons, the centralized systems didn't take off. Now, why we have Bitcoin in this day and age, 2009, I mentioned it, so it's briefly a little over 4 years old, is because the decentralization is the main innovation. The cryptographic primitives were around for many years. So there's nothing new cryptographically about what Bitcoin does, which is why it's already so stress tested in the cryptographic community. But what is new is how they prevent the double spends. And they prevent the double spends through a radically new decentralized network, through mining nodes, which perform the joint function of securing the network and verifying the transactions. So what you're seeing on the screen here is what decentralization looks like. This is a site called blockchain.info, and what they're tracking here in the portion is individual transactions. So if Hans is back there, can you hit the green and change that to dollar amounts? These are individual transactions that are going through expressed in dollar amounts, and if you hit the refresh button up there in the green, or no, hit the refresh button up by the it's the green arrows. Is it F5? Okay, so now you'll see these are all less than 1 minute. And you can get an idea, it's translated into dollars there, so you can see that some are $2,500, $3,300, $4,800. These are live transactions that are occurring while we're speaking now, going through the decentralized network. Now they're being picked up in blocks that are aggregated and attached to the blockchain in approximately increments of every 10 minutes. If you want to hit refresh again on that, we can get an update. So you can get a sense for how fast this is occurring. If it was a different browser, it would be scrolling. Now, if you move the bar up to the top, thanks, Hans. Okay, on the top here, I'll move over to this side. It's on block number 236,482, and that block is approximately 23 minutes old. That block included 672 transactions, and the aggregate value of those transactions in that block was $867,000. Back when the Bitcoin price was going crazy and it was up around $250 per Bitcoin, it wasn't uncommon to see $3, $5, $6 million blocks going through every 10 minutes. The protocol self-regulates itself to keep it at a steady block production of, like I said, approximately every 10 minutes. It fluctuates, it might be 7, it might be 12, but it's self-regulated through math to keep it at that steady 10 minutes. Now, when a miner finds a block, they attach all of the transactions down here and put it into the aggregated block and then attach it to the top of the blockchain. So all you're seeing here is you're not seeing anything centralized other than the data aggregator, but the blocks and the transactions are coming from everywhere. The miner receives a reward of 25 Bitcoin for finding a block. So if the exchange rate is about $114 per Bitcoin right now, so they're getting about $3,000 for finding that block. And it's not always the same miner, it's different miners, it's very competitive, and that's what I mean by decentral banks of the future. These mining nodes could be in somebody's house. It could be a pool, a mining pool, where everyone aggregates their computer time. Right now, Bitcoin in the world is the largest distributed computing project by a long shot. Last year it passed SETI, which is the old largest computing project in the world, and that stood for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. So the world thinks it's more important to secure Bitcoin transactions than pick up radio signals from outer space. And I tend to agree with it. So can you refresh it again just to see if there's any new transactions? Now, if you want to go to this, you can just go to blockchain.info. It's always live. They have a lot of excellent charts and statistics. But it lets you keep up to date and see what transactions are going through. This is while we're talking. These aren't going through any central clearinghouse. The fees that are in there are determined by the sender. There's no intermediary involved. And this would be like having can you imagine having the daily Visa net or MasterCard or SWIFT processing on a web page that anyone could go to and see the aggregate that's going through there? You can even click on one and see what the total fees are. So if you click on that block height one, that should tell us the amount of fees that were paid in that block. So you see that one only received $59 in fees, but the reward that it received was the 25 Bitcoin, and that's down there on the bottom. Sometimes the fees are a lot higher than that, but as the economy and the network evolves, there's the block reward. So that's 2,800 plus the 59. The 2,800 is generated from the protocol. The 59 are user-determined fees. The block itself is an aggregate of the transactions that were mined to find the hash rate to attach to the existing block. So what they're doing is they're going through mathematical computations to find the right number. And it's a search and it's a race, and that's what the activity of mining is. Okay, I think I'm past my 5 minutes, but I wanted to add that for all that we hear about innovation and disruption in payments, we tend to focus on the existing monetary units, the national monetary units. What case I'm going to be making tonight is that disruption in payments, and the best way to have disruption in payments is by changing the unit of account. Bitcoin is a different unit of account. You can think of it as a payments network and a unit of account together. So it doesn't compete with PayPal, which is really just the payments network clearing other national units. Bitcoin is both the network and the unit. The current 3-digit code for it is BTC, and that is the path to disruption in payments.